I'll say it. It was the best match of the night.
This match was all kinds of nostalgic for me. I don't know how to keep up with this because we had 60 men, 3 rings, so there's 28 in each ring.
Yellow. And then at some point, the clothes go in this trash can and they light it on fire.
We move on to the retro review of the week. We are doing World War III, WCW. This is it's a Royal Rumble, but they have 3 rings, 60 people total.
World War III.
Complete chaos. And we will see that it is complete chaos.
The main event is a 60-man battle royale that will take place in not 1, not 2, but 3 rings. Tony Schiavone, he wisely picks Hulk Hogan to win, and Heenan picks Macho Man, Ric Flair, and The Giant. So he's got all his bases covered there.
Yep. Classic Heenan.
And we move on to a Mean Gene Okerlund interview, and he's with Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, and Sting. Mean Gene says Hogan is the favorite for the War Games match. Hogan says he took a walk on the dark side, but now he knows who his friends are, and the dark side will be no more. Then he takes off his black shirt and his pants, and he reveals the old red and yellow. And then at some point, the clothes go in this trash can, and they light it on fire.
On fire, yeah.
Yeah, and the fire and the smoke progressively intensify, and then Sting is like freaking out about it. While Hogan's he's chugging along with his promo. But yeah, Hogan says he'll always be Sting's friend. And Hogan says, well, that's WCW. And the black is gone for good. And Macho Man says, Hogan, you're the coolest dude in the world. Hogan says Macho Man's injury was just a part of their plan. And then he talks about dirt sheets and the internet. I don't know what that was all
Even
about.
back then. Yeah, because they were talking about being injured. He's like, the internet got it wrong, brother. They said we were injured and all this stuff. Yeah.
And DDP versus Johnny B. Bad for like the bajillionth time is our first match of the evening. It is for the WCW World Television title.
Yeah, I think this is the 3rd or 2nd pay-per-view in a row.
I don't know. I think it's 2nd. It just feels like
there's the one with the 2nd. There's the one with the Max Muscle interference, and then they have this one.
Diamond Doll reveals that she is going to go home with the winner of the match, which means that she is a whore.
Which means she's going to do sex on someone.
Yes. And speaking of which, Tony Schiavone is so enraged at the idea of DDP having sex with his wife. Like throughout the match, why is she going home with him?
At first it was like, oh, she's just his manager. But, then when she talked about she's going home with the winner, and Diamond Dallas Page wouldn't know a 10 if it was staring him right in the face. You only want the championship. Forget about the one who cooks for you and cleans for you. It's like, okay, there we go. We've drawn the line in the sand. This is now a couple. They're just not a manager or whatever it was that Diamond Dallas Page was doing. A beaten housewife that she was.
The faces she made, she was just all whimsical. Like, oh, he's so abusive. Gee golly.
Yeah.
Johnny B. Bad wins with a springboard leg drop. The Diamond Doll, she hugs Johnny B. Bad like a Stockholm victim. And then after the match, Mean Gene Okerlund interviews Johnny B. Bad. Well, before that, he says, whoa. There's breaking news regarding the WWF steroid scandal. However, the only way you can find that out is by calling the WCW hotline, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, they're really pumping that hotline.
Yeah. But anyway, he interviews Johnny B. Bad and the Diamond Doll. Bad says that he's more than happy to put Doll in all the positions that she wouldn't get for Paige. And then Bad says that he's giving her an opportunity to be the manager of the World Television Champion. But don't give your answer right away. But she already said at the beginning of the match that she's leaving with the winner. I thought that it's been established already, but she's like, oh, I'll give it some time.
Yeah, she just said she was doing it. Like she added manipulation, and now she's thinking about it.
Yeah, she's like, oh man, he's going to put it in my asshole. Like, let me rethink this. We have a special taped fist challenge. Big Bubba Rogers, a.k.a. the Big Boss Man, a.k.a. Ray Traylor, versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And the only way to win is by knockout or pinfall. Duggan comes out. He's got the 2x4 draped over his shoulder. He's all wild and crazy. It's Duggan.
The front of this match, he's wrestling it with the 2x4 on, and he's like holding it and moving it. It's like, just take the damn thing off.
At one point, Bubba reached into his pants to pull out a roll of tape, and he used it to cover his taped up fists for more damage.
So to be honest, I didn't know at the beginning this was a tape fist match. I didn't hear that part. I heard that, you can only win by a knockout or submission.
No, it was knockout or pinfall, which made absolutely no fucking sense to me.
It's like, okay, so is this like a last man standing thing? Whatever. And then, yeah, they're putting the tape on the fist. I'm like, why is he taping a fist that's already taped? He's like retaping it.
Well, they tried to say he was taping up his knuckles. Now his knuckles are covered. Or I think Bobby tried to cover, but Tony's like, I don't know if that's going to do anything.
Yeah.
VK Wall Street, aka IRS, comes out with a chain wrapped around his fist. And then Duggan hits Wall Street with the 2x4. And somehow Bubba gets the chain and he knocks out Duggan for the win. And I rewind it like 3 times because they said the IRS tossed it in the ring, and I didn't see how he could have done that.
Yeah, I didn't see it either. Unless when he got hit, it like flew over. That's the only thing I can think. I didn't watch it back or anything.
Right.
That was the only thing I think. It's like he got hit and then it flew and then just so happened to fall where Bubba could get it.
That's what I thought, but I just didn't see how because when he got up, he didn't make a throwing motion. He didn't even sidearm it. So I don't know. To me, it looked like he still had it.
Maybe he did. Maybe they had to. I don't know.
Yeah. So Bubba wins. It was actually pretty realistic because it was just very sudden. With he wrapped the chain around his fist and uppercutted Duggan.
And boy, did he get him with that uppercut! My goodness, like he uppercut the shit out of him. It was like a Ryu. Oh, you get like he really took that uppercut with that chain.
Sure did.
It's like, wow, you ain't seeing that today.
And a few years later, Bubba has a tape on a pole match or some shit with Shark.
Oh boy, that should be interesting.
It was pretty good. It's about the same as this one.
Oh, we'll get there.
So Mean Gene comes back. He's interviewing Ric Flair. Sting wants revenge or some shit. And Flair said Sting tried to end Flair's career. So now he's back one more time. And then Gene and Flair talk about the main event. What do you think?
Classic Ric Flair promo, so no complaints here.
All right. The third match of the evening is Cutie Suzuki and Mayumi Ozaki versus Bull Nakano and Akira Hakuto.
I don't know. I couldn't even get their names. I was trying to write their names down, but when I paused it, it was like right over the...
Yeah.
Like the little pause screen was right over their name. So I'm like, well...
Okay, well, I'll take 3 out of 4. And this is an inter-promotional match, an inter-promotional match because it's a WCW event, but it's All Japan and JWP group wrestlers together for the first time. So it's like a promotional dream match or whatever, I guess. And it was awesome. It was like one of the best things on the pay-per-view for me. Bull Nakano was easily the best of the 4. I have no idea.
It was almost match of the night.
You think so?
Almost.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right.
Completely blown away. And I remember, when I saw Bull Nakano, I was like, oh yeah, I remember about her with that distinct hair that she had. Like, it just reminded me when she was walking. I was like, oh yeah, I remember she can go. And then Cutie Suzuki, she lived up to the name.
She was a cutie, yeah. She couldn't wrestle worth a shit, but she was.
I didn't expect it.
I did because they were Japanese women. Usually they're pretty good. Like Asuka's gorgeous and she can wrestle her ass off. Ditto Io.
True.
But the fucked up thing for me is I've seen this match like probably 3 or 4 times, but I think this is probably because I'm now in a review mindset, I guess. I'm seeing it with a different lens, but it was completely awesome. I don't know why the JWP group would send Cutie and Mayumi out as a representation of their group. I know Cutie is a cutie, but it just...
I I didn't expect the match to go as long as it did. I'll say
Oh
that.
man, they went on forever.
It did, but when you saw Bull and Akira, like, well, look at the size of them. Look at the size of Cutie.
Well,
Like this is just gonna be a squash.
it seemed like they were just more interested in beating the shit out of the two girls up than winning.
They sure were. She was tossing them chicks by their hair. This being Bull.
Oh yeah, she tossed
It's like,
Ozaki out of the corner, and the crowd even gasped on the first one. They're like, "Oh shit!"
yeah, because it wasn't soft. She like picked her up by her hair and threw her.
Yeah, and I that's the thing with like women's Japanese wrestling is like the most brutal sport ever. Nakano finally hits a guillotine leg drop on Ozaki for the win. I didn't care for the little double submission and the multiple coup de grace things.
Oh, I did. I liked it. They just like took turns. 1, 2, 3.
It went on
And
too
then
long.
she actually kicked out. So
yeah, I thought the little girls were gonna win.
I
That's the story they were going to
the
tell. But no. I loved when the Hokado, she dragged Ozaki to Suzuki and just held her hand out, just out of reach.
yeah.
Like, ah, ah, ah. And then Suzuki would almost get her, and she'd slap her hand down. And they were all screaming in Japanese, and so that just made it sound so primal. It sounded like a fight. It was great. I'll say it. It was the best match of the night.
All right.
And you said last week that WrestleMania has had a women's match each night, and I think this is the first WCW women's match that we've seen since we started doing this.
Yep. And they delivered.
Yeah. WCW might not have women's wrestling, but they didn't put on shit just to have women's wrestling.
Yeah, just to check a box.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, you're going to be on the card, but it's because, you're going to put on the match of the night.
And I know we're grading this on one match. I don't know what they've done before or since, but based on what we've covered so far, home run.
Absolutely.
So Mean Gene, he pimps the hotline again, and he brings out Lex Luger and Jimmy Hart. Lex Luger is facing the Macho Man. Hart says Macho Man is looking at the next world champion because Luger has it all. Then Luger says he's the past, present, and future of WCW. And he's breaking Macho Man in a bunch of pieces. And he's looking at the floor like he's autistic. Did you happen to notice that?
No.
Given his promo, he's just looking down. Mean Gene even looked like a little unsettled by it.
Yeah, I didn't pay that close attention to it.
Go back and watch it. It's really awkward. I
do remember someone, it looked like someone was like, not him, but it looked like someone else was like, I don't know, reading off a teleprompter or something.
Maybe that's what it was.
They had like cue cards or something.
Okay.
I don't know. I know there was someone else who was definitely looking at something.
Okay. That makes sense then. Because he's just looking down the floor like, I'm going to beat him. Not making eye contact. It was weird. So after that, we have Chris Benoit versus Kensuke Sasaki. It's for the U.S. title. Before the match, Sonny Ono says Benoit is an American wannabe, which I thought was funny how he said it. I don't know why. And of the two, I have to say that Sasaki had the more impressive mullet by far.
Yeah, the like triangle cut into it.
Yeah, he had designs. It's pretty good. I thought it was a great match. It was like watching Benoit versus a Japanese Benoit because they both had like the same build, same mullet. They both worked the same. They both beat the shit out of each other. There was one part where Benoit did a suicide dive and hit his head on the guardrail.
Yeah.
That was interesting. And then when he hit the headbutt, good stuff. He hit him with everything. The rolling German suplexes. He got him with a tombstone. But wasn't enough. Sasaki, he retained his title with a brain buster. I thought that was a great match too.
It was, but I was on the fence here.
Yeah.
I was like, because obviously the history of Chris Benoit. I just couldn't get into the match because the whole time I was thinking about.
Really?
He's doing the headbutt. I'm like, that's probably led him to doing that shit.
Oh, definitely when he hit the guardrail. I'm like, oh, there it is. I see it.
Yeah.
This is the moment.
This is what leads him to doing what he did. So
yeah. It was funny too because he just got up and shook it off. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, I know you're gonna have to call me some names here, but I might have to skip out on Chris Benoit matches. There's a lot going on there with that Chris Benoit guy. I say that, but like it accidentally started like auto playing one pay-per-view. I didn't see what it was.
Yeah.
It starts auto-playing, and we got Benoit versus Justin Thunder Liger. So it's
Oh,
like,
shit.
oh man, I don't want to watch Crimson Wall matches, but come on, I gotta watch that one.
Yeah. I don't have any problem with the Chris Benoit matches. I get what he did, but that doesn't erase the fact that he had really good wrestling matches. And if the point of what we're doing is to watch the shit.
Fair enough. I'll see what I can do.
Anyway, where did I leave off?
Gene Okerlund with the Dungeon of Doom.
Sullivan said the Giant is the uncrowned champion, and any smart man will bet on him to win the main event. Jimmy Hart says they ain't scared of Hogan wearing the red and yellow, and the Taskmaster is the only one that wears red and yellow in WCW. Giant says he knows the Battle Royal is going to come down to him and Hogan. And then he says, roses are red, violets are blue. I'm going to kick your butt to Kalamazoo.
Yeah, and then starts wailing around.
And I have no idea why he just busted out to a poem. Made no sense, but it was great. The Giant is such an animated character right now.
He was such a character. His eyes were like all the way up.
Yeah,
the whole time.
and every time he laughs, he does the lean back.
Yeah,
The like a true villain. So then they played a Macho Man Lex Luger hype package. Luger said he wanted Hogan's title. Macho Man said that Luger had a personal agenda. And then Macho Man said Luger was going to join forces with the Dungeon of Doom, and he seemingly did in the last pay-per-view. I think Macho Man's valid in his concerns or his points.
Yep.
So we have Macho Man Randy Savage versus Lex Luger, and it was a good match. Macho Man came out with the injured arm, and he said he felt like 1,000,000% before the match, and he showed it. He started off by just kicking Luger's ass from one side of the ring to the other. Luger was selling it and screaming, and, ow, ow! I love it. I might be a fan of Luger when it's all said and done. I remember thinking of Luger the same way I think of Drew McIntyre.
I always liked him. You know, he had the physique.
Yeah.
He always looked like a big deal.
Well, I was always biased with Hogan, but now that I'm watching Hogan with older eyes, I don't know.
He's definitely geared towards children.
Although,
but it's vintage Hogan, and it's very entertaining.
And we haven't seen Hollywood Hogan yet.
Right.
So hopefully we'll get somewhere with that. So we saw the Macho Man elbow drop early, but Jimmy Hart provided a distraction. And Luger got Macho Man out of the ring, and he applied a torture rack. And Hart distracted the referee so Luger can apply it a little bit longer. And then at one point, the referee's counting. And then Jimmy Hart, he has the megaphone, and he's like, oh, he's on 4. He's on 5. Thought that was good. So the torture rack, of course, that injures Macho Man's back. Luger rolls him into the ring, and Macho Man's just laying there. And Luger applies an arm lock for the win.
Yep, he went off of an arm lock.
He did, which is nice. He had an injured arm lock. Luger's strong. Makes sense.
And he was like really squeezing it out of him too.
And I like the deal with the torture rack outside of the ring. I thought that was a nice little finish, because the torture rack is a devastating move. I don't know why nobody does that today.
I had to rewatch it. I was like, wait, what happened? Because I saw him do the torture rack, but I didn't follow for some reason that the Macho Man was out from that. And then he threw him in the ring and just gets him in the armbar. I'm like, wait, what happened?
Well, he held him longer than the 10 count because Jimmy Hart briefly distracted the referee so it could be longer than the 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So the idea is he applied the hold longer than was legal or whatever. So assuming that if Macho Man was in the hold for 10 seconds, he'd be fine. He'd be fresh as a daisy.
Yeah. But
so
yeah, it was a good ending there.
Yeah, I liked it. It was a good story.
Still don't quite know if he's officially in the Dungeon of Doom.
Well, he did refuse to let go of the arm bar that he had on Savage. He had it on for so long that Sting came out and told him to let go, which he did.
And they played up that him and Sting are going to be tagging on Nitro that we don't watch. And he's still playing the fence, I guess.
After that, we have a Sting Flair video package. So I got Flair and Anderson. They were fighting. Anderson brought in Pillman. Flair asked Sting for help. Sting didn't trust Nature Boy at first, but Flair kept asking for help. Sting slowly started trusting Nature Boy. Then Flair's turned on Sting. And there was a deal where Anderson and Flair, they got into an argument. They wrestled. Anderson beat Flair with the help of Pillman. Remember that?
Yep.
So at one point, Anderson and Pillman challenged Ric Flair. Well, Ric Flair needed a tag team partner. Who better than the Stinger? Well, at some point, they get into a match, but Sting doesn't show up. So it's basically a handicap match. But eventually, Sting shows up to save the day. Well, at the last pay-per-view, same thing happened, just it was Ric Flair that didn't show up. But Ric Flair shows up, takes down Sting.
And rejoins the Horsemen.
And he reforms the Horsemen.
Yeah.
And that brings us to Sting versus Ric Flair. And the match starts off with both men meeting in the middle of the ring. Flair puts out his finger, and Sting tries to bite it. I don't understand what the big deal of Sting was. But that's just me. Sherry and Colonel Parker, they come out for some reason. Don't know why. And then Ric Flair used all 3 rings to get his ass beat in. And then Sting wins with his sharpshooter.
Scorpion Deathlock. This match was all kinds of nostalgic for me because I remember early WCW, Ric Flair and Sting, and then other side randomness, Vader. I remember Vader because he came out in that elephant mask thing.
Yeah, we were 1 year before Vader, I think.
Oh, well, there you go. So, yeah, I remember him coming out in that little elephant mask. And then, yeah, Sting and Ric Flair, I just remember them. They were like the early Fight Forever. And it was always Nature Boy would chop Sting and Sting would no-sell it.
Yeah.
It's like
pretty much powers by Ric Flair's chops.
Yeah, pretty much like anytime Ric Flair chopped him, he would no-sell it. And then, yeah, it would like bring him back into the match. Ric Flair would be beating him down, and then he'd chop him, and that's like what wakes him up. At one point, Shivani was like, when's he going to learn these chops aren't effective on us? But, you know, that's just the Nature Boy. He's got to go back to the well. And then he hits the old school chop block. That was always one of my favorite moves.
Yes.
Right to the back of the knee.
And they crumple.
Yeah.
It's something you would get in football. I remember getting those same chop blocks.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was always nostalgic for me, this match.
I just always remember Ric Flair being a joke. So it's hard for me to get past that.
Yeah, you could never just quite get past Sting.
Well, no, when I started watching WCW, the NWO was already established and Hulk Hogan was already bad. And this was around the time when they were just shitting on Ric Flair. And it didn't really stop.
Oh, and he was like forever taped up.
Right.
Like he always had bandages on his head and gets killed by the NWO. They drug him out to the wood, their desert.
Yeah. That was on a Nitro.
Good match nonetheless.
Yep. So Mean Gene interviews Hulk Hogan. Hogan says he wants to win the belt and keep it forever. And if Sting and Macho Man are in the ring, they're marked men. And he called the Giant Stinky. Fee, fa, fo, thumb.
Yeah, he had a rhyme of his own.
Yeah. That stinky, achy giant. And kick us off on the Battle Royal.
Oh, boy. I don't know what to tell you. So we get a 60-man, as stated before, Battle Royal. And it is for the vacant WCW Heavyweight Championship, the grand prize of them all, big gold. Now, how is this title vacant, you might ask? And I asked myself that too. Well, they explained it. So, on the last pay-per-view, the Giant won by disqualification. But at the time, Jimmy Hart was Hulk Hogan's manager, and he signed the contract that the title can change hands via disqualification. So the Giant is champion because he won the match by the disqualification. Or no, he lost the match. Anyway, don't get caught up in the semantics there. So yeah, the Giant's parading around with the title. And then apparently the committee said, hey, no, you can't be the champion. So then they vacated it and put it up in this Battle Royal. And yeah, we got 60 men, which I believe is like the whole roster. And we have 3 rings. And I don't know how to keep up with this because we had 60 men, 3 rings. So there's 28 in each ring. And then they had a little screen on each ring.
Oh, it was like watching that stupid NFL Network shit Where, oh, you can watch 6 games at once. No, you can't.
Yeah, it was like the Sunday ticket thing. All this action's going on at the same time, and you got to try to keep up with it.
It was a
So,
clusterfuck.
pretty much impossible.
There's no way you could pay attention to what's going on.
Yes, and then they kept saying, "Oh, when we get down to 10 men, they got to move all to one ring." But they did it at 20 men, which means they didn't even know what was going on.
Yep, that makes sense. That's WCW. But the important stuff happened when it was one man gang, Hogan, the Giant, Sting, and Luger, right? Oh, Macho
Yes.
Man as well.
Yeah, the Macho Man.
And Sting and Luger, they're trying to dump the Giant over the ropes, and Hogan dumps everyone. So it's Hogan. He's ready to get to the other two, but the Giant grabs onto his ankle and pulls him outside of the ring. And for some reason, Hogan goes from one side of an empty ring to the other side and then back again. Don't know why.
Crawling under the ring, too.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Macho Man eliminates One Man Gang and the bell rings. Hogan's pissed off and he overdramatically is outstretching his arms like a crab. He's like, what? What? He's looking to the crowd for help. Macho Man, he's looking confused. Randy Anderson officially declares Savage the winner and therefore the new heavyweight champion. And then Hogan, he's all kinds of pissed. Mean Gene, he gets in the ring and Hogan says the Giant pulled him out. Hogan then goes to demonstrate how the Giant pulled him out.
Oh, he kept doing it, too.
Yeah, he kept go to the trouble of going all the way out of the ring, almost to the other ring, and then sliding back in. It's a lot of energy.
And he kept saying, "What? Hulkamaniacs!"
So Mean Gene basically says tough titties, and he wants to talk to Savage, who the crowd actually seemed to boo. And then Macho Man tells Hogan, hey, it is what it is. Are we good? And Hogan says, hey, before I say anything, I want to ask the crowd, did I go under the bottom rope or not?
Yes. And he's doing the Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, he's cupping his ears.
The ear thing. And that's what's great about Hulk Hogan. Like, he really works the crowd.
He did.
He was really getting the crowd in there. Hulkamaniacs, didn't you see it?
Right.
Oh, you gotta tell them, Hulkamaniacs.
And it should have been a nice little moment for Macho Man, but they're cheering Hogan instead. Mean Gene again says tough titties, and then Macho Man says, well, hold on. It's my dream to be the world heavyweight champion, but if there's a question of my right to wear this title, that just ain't cool. Hogan, quite honestly, he's been a bitch this entire time. He says neither of us went over the top rope. And Macho Man says he needs...
Yeah, you didn't get eliminated, I didn't either.
So Macho Man says he needs to see the tape. And then Hogan taunts Macho Man, says he'll show Macho Man the tape on Nitro. Because he's like, it is what it is. And Hogan then expects to shot at what he thinks is his belt. And it would be true if the belt was around his waist now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I love the little Macho Man, I want to see the tape. And Hogan, you know what, brother? I'm going to show you the tape tomorrow on Nitro.
Right.
I was waiting for him to say, tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on Nitro.
I will show you the tape, but first you got to call the WCW hotline.
Blatantly plug. They really do, like, make sure, I mean, it's good. They end the pay-per-view, and then it's like, tune in tomorrow for the fallout, as opposed to, well, that's the end of the pay-per-view. We'll see you tomorrow night. And that's just it. Like, tune in or whatever. But this, they're like bleeding it into Monday Nitro. Oh, we're going to watch the tape tomorrow, not right now, because, you know, Mean Gene said, oh, we got the tape. Yeah, we can watch it. But tomorrow, when we're on TV, the network. Not right now.
It is just smart advertisement in general. Like, okay, you watch this, but make sure you watch the other shit because bigger and better shit's going to happen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They remember that they have week-to-week television in the book. So
right.
They're bleeding that story. And I guess this is going to be our Starrcade, Hogan versus Macho Man, because that is the WrestleMania for WCW. Is that where they're going? That's just my guess. They're going Hogan versus Macho Man.
Well, you have to, right?
I mean, that's only what would make sense based off of what we just saw. But of course, that can change from the week-to-week television.
Of course.
So I have a now.
But I mean, it's a good story. I like the fact that Hogan was pulled out. He wasn't, officially eliminated.
that was the first World War III thing. Well, we shall see where it goes next. But next week we will be doing WrestleMania 3, as I've already said it multiple times. The greatest wrestling match ever in the history of wrestling is coming up.